Hi guys, this is Shakti from Around the Wicket, where we not only speak about the game, but we try to learn more about the humans behind our sport. Now, last week we had the former Brisbane Heat opener and current Australian women's cricket team opener Beth Mooney joining us, and today we have another Brisbane Heat cricketer in the captain and the all-rounder from the Australian cricket team with 1,100 international runs and over 170 international wickets. Jess Jonassen, thank you so much for joining me.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Firstly, tell us, how are you spending your time? How have you been as well?
Yeah, things have been pretty good so far. We've for the last couple of months, we've been into our pre-season training here in Queensland. So we've been very fortunate in terms of the COVID-19 sort of situation. So yeah, we've got a few things in place that's thankfully been allowing us to train relatively normally, which has been nice.
Now, with the Brisbane Heat, you had a wonderful season last year, both with the bat and the ball, over 400 runs, 21 wickets. What do you feel contributed to you having such a wonderful season?
Well, I don't think it's just one thing. I think it's sort of been a combination of a couple of things. I think I was pretty settled and pretty happy off the field. So that for me always helps and allows me sort of when I'm on the field to just fully relax and enjoy being out there. And I think also with that sort of the relationship that I have with our current coach, Ashnofsky, sort of the work I was able to do with him, he allowed me to sort of open my eyes a little bit, I guess, and sort of see ways that I can sort of take the game on.
Yep.
In ways that is what I do, not sort of trying to play like anybody else, which I think at times it's always easy to fall into that trap, especially when we had someone like Mooney down the other end that was sort of hitting the ball to all parts. So it's no surprise that people sort of want to try and do that as well. But I think, just that clarity around how I wanted to play and sort of that clarity within the role that I was given in the team sort of also helped, I think, as well.
And with the team, team has been so successful, 2 successive titles, last season to cap it off. What do you feel the team does so differently that other teams maybe can learn from?
Well, I think for us, we've always sort of prided ourselves on the versatility that we have within our side. And I think coupled with the way that Noffers, our coach, sort of approaches the game, and he sort of made a lot of good cricket decisions in terms of matchups. And I think the versatility within our group allowed people to, I guess, be able to step up at different times. And we didn't really, even though Moons was one of the leading run scorers, we didn't really need to rely on that solely to win games, which I think was really exciting for us, that there was a number of different people that stood up at different times, and people were sort of flexible within that as well. And I think sometimes you can be too rigid, particularly from a batting sense, that you always go in with the same order and the same players are coming out at the same time, irrespective of the matchup. Whereas I feel like we sort of looked at the matchup with certain batters to certain bowlers, particularly from that perspective. And I think that really sort of helped us in a number of games throughout the season, that allowed us to get those wins where I think in the past we might have faltered. Then, obviously being able to string together a couple of wins in a row always helps. We were sort of the cardinal win one, lose one sort of team in the past. So I think the last 2 seasons, being able to win the title, we were only able to achieve that by winning consecutive games.
Thanks for sharing that. Whatever you guys are doing, you're doing really, really well, and hopefully it continues as well. Now, just to get, the psychology of sports, Jess, away or off the pitch, a couple of things, that generally challenges an athlete's bubble is the physical side of things, which may include fitness or health, and obviously the mental side, something that you have been, through yourself with the hardships of coming back from multiple, knee injuries. Tell us about how difficult it was, coming back from, four knee injuries, wasn't it? And how difficult is the recovering or the rehab process?
Yeah, it's obviously never nice to get injured, and I think now I'm a bit of a veteran at it. If I was ever to go through another knee op, I think I'd know what to do with like the back of my hand. But it's never nice being injured, and particularly in an elite and professional sporting environment. It's always challenging, and there's never really a right time to get injured. And I think my most recent one was obviously the worst of worst timings probably, and leading into that West Indies World Cup. It was sort of, I think it's always nice looking back now that I always saw it as just an achievement to get on the plane in itself, and I guess I was always preparing myself that I was going to play, and making sure that I could get myself in a good enough condition to be able to confidently go out onto the field and perform. And I think getting told sort of the night before the first game that I wasn't going to be playing was it's never nice to hear that you're not playing, but I think particularly on the back of the hard work I had done just simply to be there in the first place sort of really took me back a bit. And I think leading into that as well, I was always somebody that was able to find ways to contribute on the field. And I think that to not being able to play a single game in that campaign, I found it very, very challenging mentally, and there was a lot of soul searching that went on, and I was probably very fortunate that we had our team's sports psych with us over there, and I was able to work through a lot of things with him sort of away from the game, and a lot of sort of self-identity and those sort of things that I was sort of, I'd always had cricket and I'd always been playing and been out on the field, but sort of now I'm on tour, it's like, now what? How can I contribute? And that sort of thing. And that was something that I found very, very challenging. But looking back now, it was probably, one of the best things that's ever happened to me, that it allowed me to gain a lot better perspective on a lot of things, and get some balance back in my life as well.
It's a good segue because, you touched on the 2018 T20 World Cup in the Caribbean. In your words, these were exact words: "I'm so happy for everyone that we won the T20 World Cup. But I must admit that when it ended, I did think, thank God that's over. I just wanted to get home." Was that a strange feeling though, with the team being successful and, you having some doubts, personally, or some demons personally to get over it? Yeah,
it was kind of bittersweet in a way. Like, obviously I know all the girls who were out on the field and sort of were even in the squad, how hard everybody had worked, and that's the support staff included, that everybody had been building up and working so hard, with, I guess, the disappointment of the previous T20 World Cup for us, that obviously losing that one in India. So it's sort of, there was a lot of work that went into it, and a lot of games in between those that at the time it was really hard to sort of take those previous games into consideration, and that it wasn't sort of only those games that were played at the tournament that kind of contributed to us winning, but it was also some things leading into that. And I think, it was sort of, it's never nice when you're not playing, and then coupled with being in a country where the time difference to back home is very challenging. So not having my sort of normal support network around me, I was sort of just, I was really happy for everybody, but equally not being able to contribute to that success in the ways that I would have liked was very challenging at the time.
While we're with mental health and hardships and mental space, away from cricket, you finished your graduate certificate in mental or forensic mental health. What made you choose this course, and are you looking forward to delving deep into it once your cricketing career is over?
Yeah, well, I've got a law degree already, so I've been wanting to. I've always liked learning, and I know that sounds a little bit nerdy, but it's something like I always enjoy. And obviously, throughout that time around that West Indies World Cup was when I realised I needed that balance back in my life. So I tried to sort of think of a few different courses or degrees that I could sort of add to what I've already done that doesn't involve too much of a commitment over a long period of time, but is sort of just something to fill the void, I guess, away from the game. And yeah, to be honest, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but it was a really good way of, I guess, me figuring out what I want to do or what I don't want to do.
Sure.
And I've sort of done another sort of little course in criminal psychology. So that's probably the next pathway that I'd like to go down, is sort of the psychology side of crime and the law, which sort of builds on what I've already got in terms of my uni degree.
Yep, you can never stop learning, myself included. I had 12 years of university. So I've got a segment called "How Well Do You Know Jess Jonassen?" So let's see if you can. Let's see if you can answer questions about yourself. Okay. The first question is, how many wickets did you take in the World T20 final, and who were your victims?
Did I take 3?
That's correct, yeah. And do you know who those 3 were?
Harmanpreet Kaur.
Yep.
Rodriguez.
Correct.
Does the retired hurt count? I know I hit somebody in the head. I remember that, which is bad.
I don't think that's on the scoreboard, so no, it doesn't count, unfortunately.
Not too sure about the last one.
It was Radha Yadav.
I remember.
Yeah, Radha Yadav. Yeah. So Harmanpreet Kaur, Jemima Rodriguez, and Radha Yadav. Yeah. Question 2. This is one of your big milestones. Against which country did you get your 100th ODI wicket, and who was that wicket?
I know I got it against Sri Lanka because I got it at my home ground.
That's correct.
And I know it was a left-hander, but I don't know the name.
That's okay. Her name is Sugandhika Kumari, but you are correct. 100th wicket against Sri Lanka, Sugandhika Kumari. Last question before we go to the final part of our interview. How many matches did you take to get to 100 one-day international wickets? And for bonus points, who are the other 2 Australians in the top 5? And you are number 2 on that list, Jess. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elise Perry.
That's correct.
In the list. And then it's either Catherine Fitzpatrick or Lisa Sthalekar, I reckon.
Number 1. She's number 1. So who? One of those 2 is correct. Yep. One of those 2.
Catherine Fitzpatrick.
Perfect.
Yes, I had a 50-50 chance.
She took 64 matches to get to 100 international. 100.
How many?
64 matches.
64. Wow, there you go.
And yourself?
How many did I take? Let's say 67.
Correct.
Oh!
Well done.
Yes.
So you got most of it right. Actually, all of them correct, except for one.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a good thing. You know yourself pretty well. All right, let's get into the second part of our formal questions. The Ashes. It's a rivalry that is, iconic and very hard fought, not just in cricket, but in sports. Now, your first Ashes match and your debut is one to remember. I guess it's a bittersweet moment because, you got to 99 and unfortunately you didn't get your century in the first innings. But You scored 54 in the second innings, in the process becoming the third highest run aggregate scorer on debut. Do you remember that match, and what was that moment like?
Yeah, I still remember it, even though it was a while ago now. I remember coming in when we were in a little bit of trouble, and I think for the previous Ashes series, I'd always missed out on the test component of it. I'd only ever been picked in the shorter formats, and
Yep.
I guess leading into this test, I felt like I had a bit of a point to prove. That I was like, wanted to prove that I was good enough to play test cricket, and I think going in, I remember having so many cups of tea and doing Sudoku puzzles and word search puzzles with Megan Shute and Sarah Coit. And then next minute I was like, oh no, I have to go and pad up. And sort of then quickly padded up and then went and sat down the bottom with the 12th and 13th. And then it was out in the middle. And I don't know, I remember at the end of the day's play that I was more amazed at the fact that I was able to concentrate for that amount of time, that and face that amount of balls. And I know against Laura Marsh I was playing and missing a few and hit a few pretty ordinary shots, but to sort of get to the end of the day sort of on 95 not out, I wasn't nervous in the sense that being in the nervous 90s or anything like that. I was sort of more focused on what was our position as a team, and sort of feeling like I had done my job irrespective of the amount of runs that I was on. But obviously the disappointment the following morning, I felt like I'd prepared really well sort of before the day's play, and I was confident, and probably just tried to overhit the ball slightly, which then forced me to miss it a bit. And unfortunately I was trapped right in front, but very disappointed at the time, sort of knowing how close I was to a personal milestone. But I remember Meg sort of pulling me aside, and I think I was sitting next to her in the change room, and she sort of came up to me and just sort of said, I know you're probably really disappointed, but you've done an amazing job to be able to put our team in the position that we're in. So gather yourself, and the next few minutes we're going to head out and do it with the ball. So that conversation with her sort of got me back on track and sort of put it to bed pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, I guess 99 is for a personal milestone, but the team milestone in a team sport is probably more important, and you're in the history books, so you can't remove that. So pretty good match for yourself. T20 World Cup experience this year, everyone that I've spoken to, it's an unbelievable experience for you guys. Yourself personally, you had a wonderful time, especially with the ball. What do you feel made the difference for this Australian women's cricket team, that they were able to handle the pressure so well, because everything was against you, I guess, in that regard?
Yeah, I don't know, like every single series leading into this World Cup was sort of really vital and really important. And I think it probably helped us having the T20 tri-series leading into the World Cup, that obviously playing against quality sides like India and England as well was sort of, it allowed you to sort of find out a little bit extra about a few of the unknown players, and allowed you to sort of prepare that a little bit better. And I mean, it was probably one of the craziest rides that I've been on in any sort of World Cup. And I know in every World Cup that I've been a part of where we have won, we've always dropped one group match. So it's never ideal to lose the first one, though.
I was there, actually. I was there watching that.
Sometimes I wish I wasn't there. No, in all seriousness, it was sort of, there was a lot of build up to it, and obviously, playing India right at the start we knew was always going to be a challenge, and it just so happened on the day that they executed better with the conditions that were dished up, and we sort of didn't dwell on that too much. We knew we were capable of much more, and thankfully then when we went over to Perth, we escaped the little bit of a hiccup over there as well, with Rach and Meg digging in and getting the job done. And sort of, I think after we won that game against Sri Lanka over there, I think a lot more belief sort of came back into the group that to sort of just free up a little bit and trust ourselves and back our own ability. And it's sort of, as a bowling group, we felt like things were going really well, and I'm pretty sure the batting group had a few sort of sit-down conversations with each other, and then it just sort of started clicking. I think then the Bangladesh game, which Elisa and Moon sort of teed off, it just allowed us to continue to build, and right through to the semi, where we were very, very lucky with the weather, that it's sort of, I can't imagine what it would have felt like for those England girls to sort of not even get the opportunity to be able to play and go out on the field and give it a red hot crack. But in saying that, I think probably India were the form side throughout the group stages. So I think irrespective of the weather, they probably deserved it and earned their right to sort of play there. And it's sort of the build up on that grand final day, and you see with Katy Perry and all the hype around that as well. And it was the biggest crowd that any of us had ever played in front of. Like when Cricket Australia first said that, we'll try and get 100,000 there, I was sort of like,
fill up the stadium.
I was like, 40,000 would be cool. And then, the fact that it was 87,000 it was just a really surreal feeling. I don't know if I would ever be able to put the feeling into words, but I still sort of get goosebumps to this day just thinking about what it felt like to be out on that field at different times. And to sort of to know the work that had also been put into this World Cup, and not only from us as players and support staff, but everybody at Cricket Australia and everybody behind the scenes. There was a lot that went into it that we'll probably never know as players, but we're still very appreciative of it.
Yeah, what a moment for women's sport, not just in Australia, but for the rest of the world. I guess from an observer's point of view, the Australian team, for me personally, I feel like, everyone contributes and they know their role a lot better. And that's what contributes to the success of the team, because, it's just like a well-oiled machine. You guys each know your roles really, really well. There's not much egos clashing in. So congratulations on that T20 World Cup win. I guess from the T20 World Cup, we have the one-day World Cup that was supposed to be held next year in New Zealand, being pushed back by the ICC to 2022. Do you have an opinion on that decision yourself?
Oh, well, it's obviously disappointing as a player to you sort of have everything mapped out. But, I mean, I think it's probably the right decision in the sense that even though from a sense of COVID numbers, the New Zealand are going very well with it. But I sort of look at it in a couple of ways, that not every country has the luxury that us, New Zealand and England have at the moment to be able to train almost normally. And coupled with the fact that there's still some teams that needed to qualify as well, and not really knowing how those games can happen and where they can happen, and being able to do it safely, I think. And as disappointing as it is, I think it's probably was a logical decision in a way, that I think it will allow the World Cup to be properly contested by every team as opposed to just 3 or 4. And in saying that as well, like, we're still going to have a number of tours and cricket games between now and then, and it probably, from an Australian team point of view, it allows people like Elise Perry and Taylor Volemic to be 100% fit coming back
Yeah.
from the injuries as well. So we sort of look at it in that sense that we can give those sort of players a little bit more time to be back up and running and over any sort of injuries. But sort of it's never nice, but I think at the moment you sort of just have to be able to adapt and sort of, I guess, accept what's coming and what's there, and try and just make the best of it.
Yeah, I think taking the circumstances into consideration is probably the most practical decision. I guess all the teams can get to prepare, like you said, and be ready for the World Cup in 2022. Yourself, on a personal note, massive congratulations for becoming the Brisbane Heat captain with the retirement of Kirby Short as well. What are your goals and visions for the team, a team that has been so successful?
Yeah, it's obviously some pretty big shoes to fill. She's had a lot of success. And I think obviously my goal is to want to win a title as well, and sort of be the first team to do the three-peat. I know the Sixers had tried it, and we're just hopeful that we can do that. And obviously there's a lot of movement in and around the WBBL already, and there's going to continue to be more, I'm sure. And I think that's just really exciting, and we've got a few fresh faces, which is nice that people haven't been exposed to them before. So I'm hopeful that we can have a few X factors that'll be able to really take the game on, and sort of got a few signings up our sleeve that hopefully can happen, and it can go a long way about creating a really well balanced team, and one that still has that versatility and that flexibility that's allowed us to sort of win the last few titles. And I don't want to change too much. I sort of want to try and still have the group going on the same trajectory that it has been, and just going to try and be natural and just be myself. Try, as hard as it is, try not to be like Kirby, but try and utilise some of the strengths that she had, and some of the ways that she sort of interacted with players. Try and utilise those characteristics to be able to, I guess, create that team success.
Maybe some of the luck can go into the men's team as well, in the BBL.
One thing who knows?
Yeah, one thing you stated was the player movement. I guess a couple of big losses for you, you guys, is the loss of Beth Mooney. Has been so consistent over the last couple of years, and the classy Laura Woolpart as well. She's moving to Adelaide Strikers. How big do you feel the impact is when it comes to the loss of these two, classy cricketers?
Yeah, well, I think it just probably goes to show where the women's game's at the moment. I think, like, Moons is the #1 T20 batter in the world, so of course she's going to be hot property, and everybody's going to be, I guess, fighting for her signature. And I think from a Brisbane Heat perspective, she obviously provided a lot to us, particularly with the amount of runs that she got. But I think in saying that, it sort of really allows a lot of our other players to have the opportunity to step up and, I guess, try and take the game on themselves. We've got, I guess, in the past we've had people like Grace Harris and Laura Harris, and even now we've got Maddie Green and Amelia Kerr. So Maddie really was on a really good trajectory last year with us. So to be able to hopefully continue with that, continue her work with our coach and all the other girls as well, that I'm still really confident that obviously Moons is a big loss, but we've got a lot of quality players that will be able to fill that void. And I've said before that we sort of, without Moons doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to win games of cricket, because I'm confident that we will. It's just a matter of that we'll probably, or we might just win slightly differently. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I guess it's going to be quite a challenge from a bowling perspective whenever you come up against the Scorchers with the two leading run scorers. But
exactly.
There's a lot banking on that. So hopefully if you can get one or two of them cheaply, then the pressure's on the rest of them.
Well, all the best for the season anyways for you guys. I've got 10 rapid fire questions for you, Jess, if that's okay with you. Yep, we got 10 minutes as well, so which is good. The toughest opponent you have bowled to?
Oh, probably Harmanpreet Kaur when she's on.
Uh,
I get hit with 12s.
yeah, she can hit. She can hit big ball, Harmanpreet. Question number 2 is: if you had to meet one sports person, who would they be?
Oh, oh, I don't know.
Any other
Probably
sports that you love to
probably
watch?
like LeBron James, I reckon.
LeBron James. All right.
Yeah.
Question number 3 is: who was your cricket inspiration growing up?
I always loved watching Matthew Hayden and Brian Lara, those two
Yeah,
guys.
2
And
lefties
obviously
as
being
well. Yeah,
left-handers as well. I still have
exactly.
their posters on my bedroom wall at home.
I've got a cricket bat up there that's been
Oh, there we
signed.
go.
That's been signed by Brian Lara. So that was a good moment for myself. Your favorite ground you played at?
Nothing beats home for me. I always love
Yeah.
Allan Border Field, but Lords is pretty special.
The toughest bowler you have faced?
Probably Poonam Yadav.
Yep,
Just
of India.
being a lefty, she's got a really good wrong and and can turn it both ways. She's quite challenging, I find.
And she was probably the reason that India won that first match in the T20 World Cup.
Well and truly.
Your favorite wicket till date?
It would probably have to be one of the ones that I took in the World Cup final. Probably when I got Harmanpreet out, knowing how much that she could potentially take the game away from us and was a big wicket. And then, just the roar after that. That was pretty special.
Excellent. Who is your messiest teammate, both for the Heat and the Australian cricket team?
Well, for the Australian stuff, we've said Meg in the past, but I think Elisa Healy's actually giving her a run for her money. I think Midge has a lot more gear, so I guess she can sort of get away with it a little bit more. But Meg sort of hides herself off in a corner, so she tries to hide it a little bit. But yeah, I think it's a pretty close race between those two. Yeah. And in terms of the Heat, we're a pretty tidy bunch.
Nice. That's why you are successful.
No one really stands out.
That's why you guys are successful on the field, all organized. Okay, this is away from cricket. What is your favorite movie?
I always like watching Inside Out.
Okay, and the 2 more questions. If you had to describe yourself in one word, what would that be?
Geek.
And the final question is, do you remember the funniest moment you've had in your cricket life?
Oh, actually, no. In the World Cup final, I bowled a ball off the pitch. Pretty much the ball after I got a wicket. So that was pretty embarrassing. Not only in front of 87,000 people at the ground, but then the amount of people that were watching on TV.
Well, we can forgive.
I was able to laugh about it, so
exactly.
That's all right.
We can forgive you for that as well, with all your success that you have on the field. Thank you so much, Jess, for joining me on Around the Wicket. Really, really lovely to share or understand the experiences that you have with the Heat and the Australian cricket team. All the best for the Heat this season in the WBBL and training with the Australian cricket team. Fingers crossed everything goes smoothly and we can get more cricket on the field.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It was great.